Akash, can you start the stream? Perfect. Thank you so much. Hey everyone, welcome to ACDC number 182. The first point on the agenda is getting a DevNet 6 update. Barnabas is not available today. Could we have it from Stefan, or if not, I can do it?
Yeah, sure. So it's been going pretty well. We've, from the EL side, had one minor thing with Nethermind, where there was some disagreement for storage reads when contract reverted. They're still looking into that, and I hope the nodes will go online pretty soon. I think we have around 80% participation. I hear it's already fixed. And otherwise, I think from the CL side, it's going pretty well, but maybe someone with more context. There was one Grandin bug that I reported, or well, not bug, but there was some performance issues that I reported with the Panda CLI. But otherwise, yeah, I think it's going pretty well. And DevNet 7, I think we have both releases now from the CL and the EL, so it would be good to get kind of like a vibe for when that will be ready.
Do we have any client teams who can speak to that? Okay, maybe as a follow-on topic, I see there's a couple of missed blocks and issues with either Lodestar or Lodestar Ethrex 1. Has someone already looked into this?
That's Death Star. They are supposed to be out of
Got it. Okay, makes sense. Okay, that sounds good. It seems like some of them leads to two-ish missed slots, but I guess we have to investigate. Yeah, we can rename the validator, so it's kind of clearer. Okay, next item on the agenda was DevNet 7. What's the client readiness for DevNet 7? I know that there was a spec release yesterday, both from the CL as well as test releases from the EL. So are clients already passing all the tests, or what's the status?
I think so far Ethrex is passing all the tests, and I've also been testing them locally. They've been doing pretty fine. And most of the CLs, I haven't tested all of them, but most of the ones I've tested so far seem to be doing okay in just a very initial one CL, one EL networks.
We need to update our branch for sure. So we are applying some of the changes, but yeah, maybe we will have something by the end of today, tomorrow, as an updated branch, hopefully.
Okay, great. It seems that Lodestar was ready before the spec releases, so they probably have to check the spec tests. Nimbus is passing all the tests, and Terran said Prism should be ready in a few days. Maybe to Tony's question, EL changes being pushed to DevNet 8. Tony, could you speak about which EL changes? Was this to 2788 or different ones?
Yeah, I think this was about 2780. There were some spec changes, and I don't think we clients have them already, but maybe Guru or Dragan, maybe Gary can tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think we might have to try and coordinate. So if Prism and Lighthouse are ready before this PR gets in, as well as spec changes can be released as tests and so on, then I'd propose we do DevNet 7 as is. If it feels like it's going to take longer and all the ELs are ready, then it probably makes sense to include the change if it isn't a big one. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, then it would be great if clients could take a look. Spencer posted the PR in the chat.
My understanding was like this was going into DevNet 7, not
Yeah, mine also.
Okay. If that's the case, then where are we on getting it merged and tested, as in test releases happening for it?
yeah, I'm not sure how we are in specs, to be honest, on this one.
Sorry, can I just double check what change? I accidentally closed my Zoom by trying to look at EIPs, so I rejoined just now. Sorry.
The question
the-
is, how many of the 2780 changes are going to make it into DevNet 7? Could you give maybe an update on what of the 2780 changes you included in the 7 test release?
So I'm sure we're up to date with. There was a new PR, new EOS PR, EIPs PR, from Gary, and discussion in the Discord, and that is now merged. So I believe we have all of these changes here. I believe this was the latest. Yeah. So I mean, if people, I'm pretty sure we're like up to date with all the 2780 changes, as far as I know. And the tracker contains these new changes that were, I believe, just merged. When was this PR merged?
I think just
40
today. Yeah.
43 minutes ago. So yeah, we're up to date with that PR. So I think the only open change, as far as I know, is Tony's block access change, which is quite a small change. So the question is, which we don't have in the tests. So the question is whether we want to add that to DevNet 7 or
Is the change
not.
small enough that EL teams would also be able to implement it in the span of a few days? I guess this might be the wrong crowd. I'm just trying to see if we can couple the amount of time the CLs need to implement the latest specs to the amount of time the ELs need with this change. And then we kind of have the same lag on both sides. So it makes sense to just launch with all the changes.
Personally, I feel like we should add it, but then the question is it outside of process if we just create a release with this change? I think on our side, it's pretty easy to add. To the other side.
I think we if it's not too much, we should add it. I think clients are in the middle of developing, and I think it shouldn't be too much if it's just a small change.
Yeah, I'm just checking the Discord thread, and Dragan and Kareem have also said they want to include it into DevNet 7. I think the same applies for Gary. So it seems like the clients definitely want to include it. I don't have
Okay.
insight into how far clients are with that.
Okay, if that's the case, then let's include it. Spencer, would you be able to make an EL release so that clients can start passing the new tests? And as soon as we have 2 clients, we can launch next week, because I would assume that by then the CLs are also all ready.
Yeah, we can tag and release. I guess by the end of today.
Does that work for CL teams as well? Would early next week be possible for you guys to provide a client branch with all the tests passing? I think the only client that hadn't responded earlier was Lighthouse. So Is someone from Lighthouse here? Okay. Let's assume Lighthouse is also ready on roughly the same timeline. That means we can target early next week for DevNet 7. Does that work for everyone? Okay, sounds good. Also, maybe just as a small side note, the clients who were ready and performing local testing, to confirm, this is including progressive containers, right? Okay, awesome. That's perfect. That's very good news then. Any other DevNet related topic? Any open PRs, etc., that we should quickly make a decision on that would change the timeline?
None. Sorry, none that I'm aware of.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Then moving on to general Glamsterdam related topics. Nico wanted to talk about removing blinded execution payload. Do you want to introduce the topic, Nico?
Yes, so 2 weeks ago, we merged this large PR, which defined the produce block v4 APIs. I think it was my original suggestion to add this blinded execution payload for the stateless flow, for the stateful flow, because essentially you avoid sending around the payload. But when implementing this, I realized this adds a lot of complexity. So there's like 3 topics, and the biggest one, I guess, was that we also need to update the signing flow if we do this, which is pretty bad because you also need to update Web3 signer and all the remote signers. And the benefit of this is still just a small performance improvement. So yeah, because you only save the payload that you don't need to send around, while the big gain of the stateful flow is us not sending around the blobs between the validator client and the payload and the beacon node. So yeah, basically this is just removing that. I didn't really put any description on the PR. Barnabas wanted to open this yesterday or wanted me to do this because there was some issue with the builder flow publishing the payload. But there seems to be already approvals on it. But I need to polish this a bit before we can merge it.
Yeah, thank you. In general, it does seem to be a nice simplification. Is there any client team that's against this change? Okay. It sounds like just a nice description, and maybe, yeah, then you should be able to merge it in. Okay. The next point on the agenda I had was getting a status update on EIP 8282. So that's the new contract for builder deposits. Is the contract now final, and can we start figuring out audit for it, or are there still changes up for review?
Yeah, I can't really speak to all of that. I wasn't editing it. Felix was, but from what I can tell, it looks like the dust has fully settled. So the both the fee mechanism now updates when users interact with the contract, and we removed the inhibitor which was active, which prevented use of the contract before the fork. Now there's an unused inhibitor that the system can add so that we can disable the contract in the future. But that applies to both the deposit and the exit contract. And Nico and Justin worked to tweak the constants for the target and max. So I think all of those things are resolved, and as far as I can tell, it's in a final form.
Yeah, I can I can speak to this. It is good now. I want to mention we will have an audit of the contract, and there may still be coming some small changes out of this, but I think we are happy with the semantics of the contracts now. I do want to mention that for the builder exit contract, we still set the inhibitor in the constructor, so it is possible to exit builder before the fork. But I think this is acceptable because these exits would anyway only be processed after the fork, and we primarily want people to be able to sign up as a builder before the fork comes, and then once the fork is active, they can exit again. So this is the strategy that I chose. And regarding the comment from we are not using the other that is the create.
You were breaking up a bit towards the end, Felix.
Sorry, I just answered the thing from Joachim. We are using the create two.
Okay, I think he's saying they're already using the create2 method. And yes, I agree. I think submitting exits before the fork seems in itself fine. Yeah, okay. I think the EIP language probably needs updating. Cayman or Felix or someone else, would you be able to update the language? Okay, thank you. That sounds good. Then we should be ready for an audit. Worst case, once it's live on DevNet 7 and we're sure that it's working fully as expected, then we could start the audit then at latest. Awesome, thank you. Terence had a point he wanted to bring up with add a post for produce block v4. Terence or Potus, do you want to introduce the topic?
It's mostly Potus's work, but I can give some background. So we know in EPBS that like block production changes, right? You have a bid, you don't have a payload anymore. You commit and then payload reveal later. So alongside P2P bid, there is this builder API as well, right? So, but with the builder API, there is this new option of sending authorization, basically, right? And in Prism, we will sign the authorization from the validator side and then send it to get the bid. Yeah. And so basically we have this implemented and tested, but there's one lesson that we have learned along the way is that the identity and the transport should be separate. Because one of the first feedback we got was from the commit boost team. Basically, their feedback was that because we're sending the authorization and which is the URL itself, it wouldn't work for them because the URL is actually the commit boost proxy URL. But then the authorization could be the builder's URL. So in a way, it has to pass through basically. Otherwise, the builders will just reject them. And then commit boost or any proxy, they don't have the validator key, so therefore they cannot sign it, right? So we basically are coming to some sort of discussion or feedback loop with the auto protocol ecosystem, like sidecars, like mods, DBTs. So definitely, the more feedback we can get, the better. And in my PR 17124, I posted an example config, essentially that like what I have implemented to satisfy such use case. And Potus's Beacon API PR 625 is the attempt to standardize it across, which is what I implemented basically, right? So POTUS API basically states that the request body will carry the producer preference, which has the art, which has the URL, and also plus some selection knobs like the min bid and producer boost factor and stuff like that. So we're essentially at the stage of like we basically want feedback from all the community, from all the ecosystem partner, from all the VC adjacent tooling, for example, Web3 Cider, Vault, SSV people. So essentially, the more feedback we can have now, the better, because we want to start testing. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. Feel free to chime in, POTUS, or anyone.
Has anyone else had a chance to review the PR?
So I guess if nobody wants to give an opinion, so I'm not concerned implementing this in Loadstar itself or like in CL clients in general. So my concern would be mostly that we support all the toolings and all the staking setups. And because the config itself is pretty complex in my opinion, like having the ability to do it per validator pub key and then also having per builder configs like minbit and boost factor and so on. So we definitely need to make sure that other software can support this. And for example, there's tooling that uses only the key manager API to configure the validator client. So we would also need to consider that. I think it's all possible. We just need to get more feedback, as Terence noted, outside of like just people in this call.
Yeah, POTUS.
Yeah, so just to make something very clear, clients should default to just take a couple of flags like min bid, max trusted bid, or whatever it is. You can just have defaults for those values. And the operator should be able to just set a couple of flags, and that's it. And then the client itself would send on the API, would fill this this list on a per builder basis and just repeat those values. From the point of view of the operator, it should be very simple to set these flags. You can just say, I want these flags for every builder, or I want this min bid for every builder, or I don't set anything, and you just give me nice defaults for every builder. The node operator should only provide a list of builders that they trust, that they want to have contacted. So I think the complicated part of like having this per builder and having this configurable is either for a very advanced node operator or for someone that runs some keys of their own and some other keys, say for like Rocket Pool or Lido, and then they really need to have a separated list of defaults or configurations. But in general, I respect that node operators can just set one value and then the client fill the map with the per builder values. It shouldn't be complicated for operators.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is not really like if you can provide a file, this is all possible and easy to configure. But currently you can do it via the key manager API. Like you can configure the validator client via that. And I think this n square n matrix, I mean, currently it's not supported, right? So we just need to make sure we come up with a design that also allows key manager API validator clients that only want to use that to be able to express the full config, basically.
Where would you want external parties to provide the feedback to? Just in the PR, or what sort of feedback are you guys expecting?
The PR is good and it should be yesterday. We really need this to implement the builder path. We don't have an effective way of sending the signed auth without having this. So this should be like today. And parties should be staking pools mostly and builders, because
Okay, so the explicit
this would
ask is
affect both of
for
them.
any staking pools, so Lido, Rocket Pools, everyone else, as well as any builder to provide feedback in the Beacon API PR 625, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say in addition, it should also be any DVT software because they need to aggregate the signatures to create the signed auth request. So I know, for example, that OBOL has issues if you put the pub key in there. I haven't looked at the details of POTUS's PR, but yeah, that maybe we should make sure we have all the details covered there to also support DVT.
Yes, that sounds perfect. Okay, thank you. Then please provide feedback on the PR, and then we can take any questions on Discord, either on DSO. Next item on the agenda was something that was brought up earlier today on the call. In case so Matthew brought up having a more public-ish DevNet. Something that allows for applications, etc., to test their changes for GLOAS. I would propose that's one of the later DevNets, so perhaps DevNet 8, or once we have like a stable spec release where nothing is changing again. Would that work for everyone? Something that we can target around next month?
The thing that the reason why I brought this up is it's probably going to take applications some time in order to get ready for that. And having some form of a date, and I know it's hard for us to do now because it's mushy, but having some kind of a goal that they can shoot for, because really it's to give applications a testnet to work from, needs to kind of happen now, or it needs to be announced publicly so that they can prepare.
Yeah, Maria?
Yeah, I would also add this is a more EL topic, but I would say for repricings is also very important for us to be able to provide such a network sooner rather than later. Repricings will have a big impact on many of dApps, and they need to kind of be able to test how they fail and why they fail, and work on changes to the contract. So yeah, I would also, if possible, strive to have that public DevNet as soon as possible.
Do we think we'd be able to get stable-ish clients as well as stable-ish repricing numbers roughly a month from now?
On the repricings, I would say yes.
The only concern I have is a month enough time in order to let the community not only know, but for them to be able to get prepared for it.
I think the benefit is that this can be an early version because we will still have 2 full test nets before we even do mainnet. So this is kind of the first time that we can raise awareness on a lot of changes in a place that they can interact. I don't know if we should delay that too much longer, to be honest, especially because it's a lot of EL changes that people can quite easily test, let's say, especially if it's contract deployments.
It's less about the delay and more about just letting people know that it's coming. I think this really was the heart of my wanting to bring this up is, to get the announcement and get them ready and rallied.
Would all the CL teams be able to commit to something early August? I mean, this doesn't have to be mainnet ready releases, but it has to be polished-ish. So would that work for all the CL teams? Okay, we have one. Prism says yes. Okay, Lodestar also says yes. Let's target start of next month then. so that we can slowly start preparing community testing, still make some changes if we have to before we go live on testnets. We also have some non-finality tests planned for next month, so they should all fit in relatively nicely. And we can keep these on separate networks so that applications are not affected by non-finality testing. The next item on the agenda was EPBS circuit breakers. We spoke about the fact that it will be client implementation specific, but we still did want to bring it up as to what approach each client is going to take so that we have a brief discussion on it. Has any client already implemented the circuit breakers? What's the approach they're going to take? What's the status?
Yeah, we have an implementation on Teku. It's been reviewed. It's not been tested yet, but yeah, it's ready and would be ready for DevNet 7, I guess.
And what's the approach you guys are using? So when does the circuit breaker trigger on Teku?
It's a little bit similar to the existing one, but it's based on the execution payloads, obviously. And basically, we have some options to define a monitoring window and some allowed consecutive missing execution payloads and a number of missing execution payloads during that window. And it's also based on the builder index, since those indices can be reused. So we check if the builder index is, we basically have a banning and unbanning logic based on the index. And we also check if the public key associated to that index has been updated. If it's the case, so we drop that ban. And yeah.
I don't really get what you do with the builder index. So you blacklist builders, or?
Yeah, we have a cache. Actually, we keep history of the if a builder, for example, say didn't publish a execution payload for say 3 consecutive slots, we ban it for a couple of slots, and then we unban it. So we stop considering the bits from that builder, and we just look for the other ones.
But it's not really a circuit breaker, right? So it's more like you don't consider their bits.
If that's the case, we fall back to the self-building process.
So if your circuit breaker is triggered, you only self-build, or?
Yeah, if the circuit breaker is triggered, we fall back to we ban that builder and we fall back to the self-building.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty much what I have in Lodestar as well. So it's I kept it pretty similar to what we had pre-clause. The only factor, I guess, is you consider payloads instead of blocks, and then I scale the fault inspection window. Oh no, yeah, right. I scale it if blocks are missed, so I'm not counting those. But it's a bit more complex, but not by much.
Yeah, it's basically the same logic. We just have that builder index consideration in addition to the block logic we had.
That sounds good. Prism or Potus, do you want to talk about your approach?
So I forgot to bring the full document. I think we want to have something quite complicated, or at least a bit more involved, in which we will allow the operator to set different parameters to what are the payloads that what are the parameters on payloads that he'll like to have them banned. So we want to have fallback mechanisms in which we fall back to trusted builders, or we fall back to P2P builders. so there's different scenarios in which we want to fall back to actually trusted builders instead of P2P builders, because the P2P builders can be Sybil attacked. So I promise I'll have a full document written down with all the options. We discussed this in Svalbard. We found a lot of bugs on the original approach that we wanted to fall back to P2P, but P2P can be easily Sybil attacked and cheaply now Sybil attacked, so to land a lot of empty blocks. So what we want to do is to have a fallback mechanism in which if we see many blocks that are missing, fallback only to trusted builders. And if we see payloads that are missing from our trusted builders, then fall back to self-building. Anyways, I'll promise I'll have something written down complete in the next few days.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Tony had a question.
Yeah, so to answer to Tony, so the problem with P2P is that today is very cheap. I mean, we can argue that this is part of the protocol itself. But today, before GLOAS, if a builder wants to like flood the network with empty blocks, they could do it. You could pay, you could bid, and you can win the bid, and you will just make aliveness problems on Ethereum. You will make, including blocks, very expensive. You're going to have to win their bid. The relay presumably is going to stop this from happening. But on a situation where we have these P2P bids and the blocks are so cheap as they are now, someone can just like bid them over P2P and win and prevent blocks from being included. Again, this is part of the open market we have. In principle, you could accept this, but I think clients can try to prevent this from happening. If we see lots of blocks that are missing, stop P2P bids. If we don't recognize the builders, we don't recognize the builder IDs, then we can just like stop taking bids from P2P, for example.
Thanks. Is there a difference between the execution payment and the trustless payment?
So the execution payment doesn't really matter over P2P. Over P2P, we don't allow execution payments. And I think this is not an issue about payments itself. It's just an issue about I can just pin up 1,000 keys over P2P. If one of them gets spammed, I'm just going to send bits on the other key. And to answer to Nikos, trusted builders are builders that are working today. Their liveness of the chain today depends on them. If they are not buggy and if they are working, I think it's better to rely on them before relying on local building. Trusted builders have been resilient, and they are providing us blocks today that are better blocks than if we fall back to local building. We like it or not, trusted blocks are better than the blocks that Mainuk provides or builds.
Yeah. I just wanted to, so we clarify this. So basically the issue with falling back to only local would be basically a liveness issue for a lot of DeFi apps, I guess. So that is the argument, right? Just to clarify that.
Yeah, but also like checking on the health of trusted builders is very easy now on GLOAS because I don't need to be the proposer. I can just see that Titan is not producing blocks and I can just blacklist Titan immediately. So it's the easy part is blacklisting the trusted builders. The hard part is blacklisting the P2P builders.
Do we want to move the discussion from chat to the call?
Yeah, so Dima is asking what about this execution flag that we have this value on the bid? And yes, there is no reason to have that value on the bid. I think it was included just for accountability reasons so that anyone can actually check. In principle, you could check that there is a transaction that pays that much to the fee recipient in the payload. And this is an option that is there because that value is on the bid on the CL block. but we don't enforce anything on the CL. We just have that value and provide it as an option. That value is there and it's completely ignored. The only check that we do is that that value is 0 for P2P bids.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that, like right now, you do have this trusted part and there is a transaction with some amount. However, there are no signs on chain about what this value should be. When you are now adding this field and you're saying, okay, for trustless payments, for P2P bids, this value should be 0. But for trusted bids, it would likely mean nothing and it might confuse, I don't know, an external observer if this value is, for example, is incorrect. So you will have a record on chain saying that for this payload, the EL payment was, I don't know, 1 ETH. But then there is no transaction within a block, which would be misleading for the external observer, which would see that, oh, this is a field that is written on chain, but it's never validated. So I'm pretty much confused about why do we even need this value.
It is an off-protocol field. An external observer can either ignore it or try to validate it itself. If you don't have it, then, well, you don't even have the information of what that builder promised to pay.
Okay, but like right now, the only way how you know what builder promised you to pay is your negotiation with the relay. And now you have this, like how this value helps. So would builders now propagate the bits of this standard format over across relays as well, or would they just act in a way they act right now when you cannot distinguish a builder block from a locally built block from the on-chain data, because from the on-chain perspective, it's just a self-built block.
Would identify an externally built block. So the way this works is I contact Titan and Titan replies to me with a bid. And this bid would tell me the trusted part, the trustless part of the bid is 0, or it could be like 1 way. And the trusted part is 2 ETH. And if I trust Titan, I would just consider those 2 ETH as part of a payment. Then I contact some random guy that just opens an endpoint, and I contact him because, well, I just want to get more bids fast. And then to that random guy, I would add a flag that says the max trusted bid that I take from that builder is 0. So this random guy would just receive my call. It would know that I take 0 trusted bids from them. And then they would put, say, I give you 0.5 ETH on the trustless payment and 0 on the trusted part. And then I just evaluate, do I want to have from this random guy half an ETH that I'm sure to receive, or do I want to have 1 ETH from Titan that I don't know if I'm going to receive? I trust that they're going to pay me on the EL. And then I just put whatever bid I want. But this is the negotiation happens directly with both of them. If there are relays and those relays want to be dealing with these things, I mean, again, this is part of the protocol, and the client would only deal with the relay as if it were a builder.
Yeah, okay, that's understood. I'm trying to understand what stops builders from keeping their operations in the way they do now, when they only when instead of propagating a bid, they only propagate a header, and then the node just accepts this and pretends that that was a self-built block.
Oh, you can't. You need to sign it. So if I mean that includes like adding a lot of support on code bases that at least Prism will not do. I understand Lodestar would also not do, and I suspect no client would support that. To have that sort of like dealing, it would be the following. I would need to contact directly a builder or a relay or whatever it is. It would need to send me a blinded execution payload bid that I would sign myself as a self-built. The value of the trusted bid is going to be 0 because we on self-built blocks, we just put 0 for the value of the payment. And then we will just arrange for a payment off protocol somewhere. I will sign the bid as if it was self-built. And then again, we will have to have another conversation when the payload needs to be propagated. I need to get a blinded envelope that I need to sign as if I built it myself and then send it. So all of this mechanism, I don't think is going to be supported by clients. It's possible
Okay.
to do. If you fork clients and you do this and such a market develops, it's something that we cannot prevent.
Okay, and why don't we just take one step forward and somehow validate that there is a transaction with like to fee recipient with the corresponding EL payment, so that this value would finally become something super meaningful.
That makes it just too complicated for no reason, and it's also attackable because there could be a transaction and there could be like we could validate, for example, on the EL that the balance on the fee recipient was increased, but then the transaction itself on the builder could be involved, could be taken from several sources. Someone could actually send money to the fee recipient, like making the balance increase in a complicated manner. This adds a lot of complexity and interactions between the CL and the EL that seems completely unnecessary. If you are an involved player and you really care about validating this, I presume that you could do this off-chain.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other follow-up questions for the topic? Okay, I guess next up would be Porter's passing the document which defines how their circuit breaker would look, and probably other clients having this documented somewhere would also help so that we can use that as a source for our testing. We definitely want to individually test that every client circuit breaker actually works. Anything else related to Glamsterdam that people want to talk about? Okay, relating to Hegota, there was no strict topic present in the agenda today, but I did want to mention that the Hegota non-headliner window would be closing on the 6th of August. There's already been announced on ACDE last week, so I just wanted to announce it on ACDC as well. We're going to follow the same process. So if you have some EIPs that are non-headliners and you want them to go into Hegota, then please propose it by August 6th. That being said, there was one more topic on the agenda. Pooja, do you want to present the EIPs that you had? I think Pooja wanted to update the status of a lot of EIPs and she had a few topics. Let's say maybe like 5 minutes allocated for this.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Paritosh, for the opportunity. So I'm back with some of the housekeeping items. I have added the detail list in the agenda, sharing the link right here. People may please take a look at the PRs that has been created to move the EIPs in Glamsterdam upgrade, which are currently showing in draft status. As we are preparing for more public testnet, we would want to see them in last call, but the first step is to move all these proposals to the review status. So some of the PRs are already closed. We received approval from authors and it was possible to make it close, but we are still waiting on approval for rest of the PRs. Please take a look. Other than that, I wanted to bring up a few other important points, which is with respect to EIP 7723. The other day, we had a meeting of EIPIP where we discussed some of the processes around network upgrade, EIPs, and things like that. And it was highlighted that the proposal 7723 may not be the best at the present form. It may accept some of the changes, specification changes that can make it good as a canonical reference for all future upgrades. I have already shared a PR with respect to the terminology explanation about stage and status, but there are a couple of other points that we would like to mention here, which was already discussed in the EIP IP meeting, and editors feels like these are the required correction and we should perhaps do that. So the first correction that we discussed was about the time period for DFI. The proposal suggests that DFI should be removed from the meta EAP of an upgrade when the EAP is moving to the last call. However, with the discussion shared here in this link, it seems like the better status to move DFI out of the proposal is when it is moving into review status, because no matter what happens, there would be at least one DFI proposal which will be there in the draft status, and our bot does not allow to move any EIP if it has one of the required proposal in the less status. That means if it is moving to review, if it is in draft, even if it is not required, it is mentioned in the EIP, it will not be allowing that. So the proposal here is to update EIP 7723 to clarify DFI process and what is the best time for it to be moved into review status. For that, I have already created a PR. If there is a consensus right here, we can perhaps make use of it. The other thing was like we are mentioning PFI, CFI, DFI for all the EIPs which are being considered in the upgrade. However, EIP 7723 suggests that the status is the network stage should only be applicable to core EIP. So that was another important aspect that needs to be considered. And if people agree, we may have to go back and update the Glamsterdam meta-EAP, Pectra, and Fusaka meta-EAP. That's not big deal. Those are just header formatting changes that we may need to require. We are not removing any EIP from there. We will still keep the other EIP section, but we would want to have the proper header. So we follow what is recommended in EIP 7723. So that's with respect to EIP 7723. There is one other proposal meta-EAP for Glamsterdam. A PR is up to update the Glamsterdam proposal to move all these EIPs into the right network upgrade stage. In response to Tony's comment on EIP 7773, and the PR number is 11853. I'm gonna just post it right over here for reference. We can move most of the proposal into SFI, and to do that, I would just need clarity from testing team to understand that the DevNet 7 specs that we see in the list is valid, and that is the only list that should be referred for the meta-EAP. Currently, I see 22 EIPs in this table that is there. But in my original proposal, we had the 10 plus 11 plus 5, that means 26 proposals. So there could be 4 proposals which may have been DFI'd because my original PR was 2 weeks ago. So I'm open to go back and fix it, but just need the clarity from the team that the DevNet 7 spec list is up to date, and that's what should reflect on meta-EAP. Yeah, I'm gonna take a pause here. If anyone has any question that I can answer or any recommendation on these changes, please.
For the last one, I can clarify that the DevNet 7 page is accurate, but it would be good to know exactly which link you're referring to. Yes, the ETH Panda Ops one should be active, but it would be nice if both the specs team, if the specs team could have a look and confirm this from their view as well. And to there's a comment from Nixo, and I agree as well. I think defining what when DFI gets removed is a good idea, so we should do that as well.
So for that, we already have a PR added. I mean, I have added it here in the agenda itself. So kindly take a look at that PR, and we can address it over there because it would require author's approval in order to get this thing merged. I'm sharing the link here for reference. And for updating the meta-EAP with the PR 11853, I'm currently going to refer the DevNet 7 list that you have shared. If anything is missing, please someone let me know and I will update it. Or if you are updating the HackMD file, just give me a heads up and we can update it accordingly. So that's all on these housekeeping items.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think that was also the last item on the agenda. So does, as a last call, does anyone have any topic they want to bring up today? Okay. If not, then thank you everyone for coming and hope you have a nice week.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.